Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages and all backgrounds, welcome to Off the Monster. I am Michael Anthony Napoli. I am here with Derek Stats McGuire, Jeff Reardon Brown, Jeremy, I'm in the dungeon, and ladies and gentlemen, we present you with Tyler Milliken. Mr. Milliken, welcome to the fucking show, dude. We are super jazzed that you're on here, man. It is an honor to meet you vicariously through the digital age as opposed to in person. But man, thank you so very much for coming on. It's an honor to have you. Tell who you are, what you do, and how you're going to bring world peace to us.
World peace is a lot, but I can start with basically where people probably kind of know me from. I work with Jared Carabas. We do the Carabas pod together. I co-host on there, and I've been doing that for about a year now. Really was when Jared reached out, but my day job or my 9 to 5, I work at 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston, where I'm an associate producer for our midday show, Zolak and Bertrand. And on there, I'm kind of the baseball nerd. That's how they treat me. Like Derek, I am a pretty stat heavy guy. And in radio, most people know it's more the old school takes. So when I start bringing FIP into the equation and, weighted runs created plus, they look at me like I'm a maniac or something's wrong with me, but I like to fight that fight. So that's usually where you can find me. And on Twitter, I'm at Tyler Milliken _. You'll see lots of Masataka Yoshida content, but everything Red Sox news and opinions, depending on the day.
How many heart attacks?
My favorite stats.
How many heart attacks has Zolak had? He's a maniac on 98.5. I love listening to him during Patriots games, but it's like, dude, calm down, have an aspirin.
When I tell you, everyone thinks, oh, well, that's Zoe on air. It's the complete opposite. Like, he is so Scott Zolak off the air. It's almost even more because, he likes to have fun. He's with the guys. It's your typical guy in the locker room who just likes to bust balls and make jokes with you. And he's a great guy. And honestly, someone I can't thank enough because I've been on the show for, call it a year and a half now. And he's given me more advice than anybody I could ask for.
Super sweet, dude. Well, what I would like to do is I would like to turn it over to my man, Derek Stats McGuire, and we'll kind of get into this because I have to say this. I am the village idiot of this group. I am solely dedicated to the Boston Red Sox. I could give a thunderous fuck about any other sport or the 29 other teams, except for they get to play my Red Sox. But when I found out you were going to come on, and I was like, my boy Derek is going to get to talk to another Stats Masterson. This is going to fucking just be awesome. So
yeah, he might Derek, be the village idiot,
take it away.
But we got him into the WBC, which I hope we talk a little bit about now. I think the entire world is going to be watching tonight. Stats, lead us in.
All right. Well, away, the WBC has kind of brought some light to some names on the Red Sox. And I think we look at this Red Sox team, a lot of questions going around the lineup right now, especially who's going to hit leadoff, because Core is pretty much confirmed it's going to be Devers, Turner, and Yoshida as the 2-3-4, and we've seen what Yoshida's done in the 4 spot in the WBC for Japan. He's had a historic WBC, and now we also look at who the options for leadoff spot. You have guys like Verdugo who could go there, but we don't know if he will. Tristan Casas seemingly has an on-base profile, but he's also a rookie, and Cora doesn't normally like to push rookies too far up the lineup. You have a guy like Kike Hernandez who has done it before. You have maybe some other guys on the roster that could be options. Also, too, the lefty conversation comes into it. You have to do lefty somewhere. Do you want that to be 1-2, and you want to have your 3 lefties and 4 batters in your 1, 2, and 4 spots? So we're looking at the leadoff spot. 1, who do you want to be the leadoff hitter? And 2, who do you think will end up getting the nod to be the leadoff hitter?
So I'll put myself in the camp with Cora and the way he's been talking the last few days with Tristan Casas. And listen, I'm a OBP guy to the end. I think my last tweet when Elon and everyone thought Twitter was going down because of him, it was Tristan Casas should bat leadoff for the Red Sox in 2023. That was supposed to be my last tweet before, the app continued on. But I think the way they're going to profile it is Casas against righties, at least, somewhat frequently to start. I wouldn't be surprised if certain matchups they're a little careful. But knowing Casas, his really biggest weakness coming up through the minors has been lefties. What has been great during spring training, we've seen 2 homers off lefties. So if that trend continues, we might get to the point where it's him every single day. But I think to start the year, we'll see Casas in there against righties. Against lefties, it's going to be some combination of Kike, Arroyo. Ref Snyder was a little surprising for me to hear. but I think it's really going to be mainly Kike and Arroyo. And we've seen a lot of Arroyo in the leadoff spot recently. Now that Kike's back from the WBC, that changes it. So I want to see how that's handled. But I think both of those guys profile fine. You don't have an ideal kind of guy who fits that profile. We saw a team like the Phillies be in a similar situation last year. What did they do? They went and got Trey Turner. And we all know what Trey Turner is in this game. But who was hitting leadoff for them before Trey Turner? It was Kyle Schwarber. I think if you're looking for a similar comp in terms of OBP, in terms of power and what they can bring, Tristan Casas probably fits that profile the best right now. But you're asking for a lot. Like I put out my lineup projections over the last month and a half. I thought they were going to be more careful with Casas, and I think they anticipated that coming into spring training. The way he's hit this spring, I think they're looking at it and saying, "Hey, he's our best bet. Let's just run it out and see what happens."
Yeah, I think that's seemingly they kind of, if Casas plays well, they're going to be kind of their hand's going to be forced, right? They can't keep him in the 6th, 7th spot in the lineup if he's hitting very well and putting the ball in play a lot, which Alex Cora is a big proponent of putting the ball in play, which I think why Yoshida is settled into the number 4 spot. Also, there is he does have comfort in that 4th spot. But we look at this kind of team too as well. The bottom of the order, I think, is also interesting because yes, the top of the order is, whether you have Casas hitting leadoff or whatever, but I think how the bottom of the order shakes out, whether, Reese McGuire's catching or whether it's Wong or Alfaro, whoever's in that catcher spot, do they hit 9th? Would you rather put someone like an Arroyo hitting 9th in case you end up with a 9-1-2 in an inning? How do you feel about that? Because I know there's different opinions on, well, just put your worst hitter 9th or put a guy who can kind of be almost like your second leadoff hitter 9th, or maybe play matchups. And maybe if you have a couple lefties at the start of the lineup that the Red Sox could potentially have, maybe make sure this has to be a right-hander hitting 9th. How do you feel on that?
Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm super strong on either way. I do think when Adalberto Mondesi is fully healthy, he will be the kind of guy they lean towards in that 9 spot because I think they like that athleticism, someone who can get on base and kind of mix things with their speed a bit. But at the same time, I do think it's going to be a little bit matchup based, and it's going to get, depending on what's happening with Arroyo and Kike, because the reality is if they're not hitting in that leadoff spot, they're going to be towards the bottom. I wouldn't go as far as 9 most likely, but depending on what's going on certain days with the McGuire, with Wong, who, fingers crossed, it looks like he should be ready for opening day at the rate they're going. And based on what Chris Hatfield at Sox Prospects has been saying about the conversation surrounding Jorge Alfaro and his receiving, it doesn't seem like it's going to be, they view him more as an emergency situation, third catcher than someone you want, depending on, as a backup if something goes wrong. So, I think Mondesi will be that guy once he gets healthy. But for right now, you mix and match in that 8th and 9th spot, depending on, what you got going on at second base, shortstop, and catcher.
Yeah, and there are a lot of interesting names on this team too. Like you brought up Ref Snyder with leadoff spot, which he had a very good year last year, especially against left-handed pitching was very good. You have another guy and a guy like a Raimel Tapia, who you won't see him hit leadoff every day, but you might see it, a couple times during the season, guys having off days or whatever. Maybe he's on a hot stretch. He could potentially be on the opening day roster. And that kind of brings us to Jarren Duran, because Duran's been playing for Mexico in the WBC. I know Mr. Brown has been kind of outspoken of why Duran go and play for Mexico if he's not going to get any playing time. I think the counter argument can be, well, maybe the Red Sox told him you're not making the opening day roster because Tapia is going to make it, which that seems a little weird to tell someone that early that. Where do you see the Jarren Duran fitting in? Because there could potentially also be a 40-man crunch with the amount of injuries the Red Sox have too.
Yeah, I think Jarren Duran's a tough situation. And first and foremost, before I say this, he has the right to go play for Team Mexico. I get it. It's for your father. It's your heritage. Go do your thing. I just think he put himself in a pretty tough spot with how he went about this. Let's be real. The first week of spring training, the story was his new mechanics and how he looked more improved in the outfield, all these different things. If he had an entire spring, let's just say he's having the spring Tapia's having right now, or they're kind of going head to head, I think it'd be a really interesting conversation. The worst thing is he's just not playing right now. Like when you're coming in as a pinch runner or a defensive replacement, like cool, but you need reps with those mechanics. Like you just need game action. And I think that overall is the biggest thing here. Even if him and Tapia were going head to head right now, the best thing for Duran is for him to get constant at bats. Get to those mechanics, stop switching things, on a weekly basis, no more tinkering. It's just not working. We saw it down the stretch last year and he was destroying himself. So I think what fits best for him overall is just to go down to AAA. And if he forces your hand, amazing. Like what people got to realize this year, and it's not to be negative, but it is a bridge year, right? Like we see it with the way they're handling the luxury tax and these different things. It's about finding out what you have. What is Garrett Whitlock? What is Brian Bayo? What is Tristan Cassis? What is Jarren Duran? If Jarren Duran can, push himself to the majors and establish himself as a regular, that would be one of the biggest successes of anything that could happen right this season. But I think ultimately he's going to start the year in AAA. Tapia will make the big league roster, and I think he's someone we could see in that ninth hole too when he's filling in. And if you're looking for DFA candidates, sorry, Caleb Ort, you're the first one. We know what they have committed already to Ryan Brazier for this year, but it's just nothing has changed. And I think about that Yankees performance pumping 102, it's beautiful, right? A lot of guys could do that. Can you locate it frequently? Caleb Ort definitely can't.
No.
And we're watching him get teed off throughout spring training.
102 is great unless they leave it right down the middle. I do want to ask Mr. Brown on, because we talked about this on Twitter Spaces, right, with Jarren Duran, and he's not getting at bats or whatever, but we haven't talked about it really on the podcast yet because we've done a lot of Twitter Spaces, not a ton of podcasts in the last week or so. Get your thoughts out there on Jarren Duran, this whole situation with him.
I don't know how much more I can add than what Tyler just said. He missed his opportunity. You have a young man who came in, he changed his mechanics, had the opportunity of a lifetime to get on the right foot and build up his confidence is what this kid needed. He needed to get his confidence back. He had ample opportunity, and you can't go against a guy for wanting to play for his country. I get that, but you're not playing. And at this point, you're basically you have a chance of ruining your career in the big leagues now. And you got fans out there like me who was wholeheartedly for Durant. I wanted to see him succeed. I still want to see him succeed. I still want to see Bobby Dalbec to succeed. But Dalbec stayed. Did he play well? he was Mr. Spring off and on again. But at least he stayed and tried to impress Cora to say, hey, I'm still an opportunity here to be a bat off the bench in case you need me and keep me on that 40-man roster because you are going to need bench guys. Duran could have been that bench guy. I don't see that happening now. I see him starting in minor leagues down in Worcester. And it's unfortunate because he had a fantastic opportunity, which it went by the boards.
The other thing I'd add to that is, he's in a tough situation being a lefty as it is with the current construction of this team on top of it. So it's not going to be easy to find your role unless someone goes down. When we talk, because, like we just talked about the frequent at bats, that's what he needs most. And I do wonder if Cord takes it a little weird because one of the first things he said in, the first week of spring training or whatever it was, he mentioned Duran in that leadoff conversation. He's like, that's actually the kind of guy, that profile is what we want here. For him to say that, I think a lot of people were like, what are you putting your neck out for Jarren Duran for and still including him in this conversation? Like, he's 26 years old. A lot of guys at this point, you're not prospect status. It's none of those things. But I wonder if it came to him and some of the unhappiness with how things played out last year, just knowing his state with this organization, was he like, hey, let me just get away. Let me try to put on a show on a stage where a lot of people are watching and see what happens. Maybe that was it, but I don't know. The math just doesn't add up. I think that's what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, because it was the Doogie and Duran show, right? Before they went and play for Mexico. And even when they first went from Red Sox fans, it was the Doogie and Duran show, the Doogie and Duran show. Duran's going to play and Verdugo's going to play. And it just so happens Mexico has Verdugo in right, Rosarena in left. And then they got Alec Thomas in center, who is going to be an everyday outfielder for the D-backs this year. So really isn't playing time for him on that Mexico team, and they were never going to put him at second base, for example. Just not that would have been outrageous. The Red Sox wouldn't have allowed that.
No, and I think for Duran and everything that's kind of playing out at this moment right now is get back here, just get every day at bats. That's all you need. Just hit. If you hit, they'll find a spot for you at some point. You're gonna have to hit a lot, but if he does, the Red Sox, the whole point of this year, it's winning games would be nice. It's about what's to come for 2024, 2025, 2026.
So if I can go in here with Duran, we talked about somebody who, in my opinion, they went to the WBC, they played their way out or didn't play out of the roster. In my opinion, I think we look at the other end of it. In the WBC, we had somebody who, in my opinion, played their way into getting more at bats and getting more appearances. That's Yu Chang. I know he's not projected to be there opening day, but Bottom of the lineup, I could see that happening if he does anything like he did in the WBC.
Yeah, I think Yu Chang's one of those guys. It's very interesting. Like, what happens when you become a WBC hero like you did out of the blue, where he talked about it here. He kind of feels invisible almost sometimes with how American baseball is and how fans are. And can't blame him. The guy's been shuffled between AAA and the big leagues, pretty good prospect at one point, but never, top echelon. I like Yu Chang. The hope is he gets here Thursday with the visa. We'll see, right? Like they said Monday, they've changed the day a couple times now. And that seems to be the one way people are floating Bobby Dalbec in and saying, hey,
hey, he can play first, third, and short too. Like
it's just one of those things. I think like Chang has a major league contract at this point. We know what it is. Bearing something crazy, I think the Red Sox hope they could move off Dalbec. And I think Palka has, looked pretty good this spring. I think he was a nice signing. A lot of people didn't expect in the middle of spring training for depth. It's just Delbec's still striking out a ton, and it's awesome that he lifts the ball. But dude, you get it up in that jet stream down there in Florida, a lot of guys are going to be hitting home runs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Also, too, though, Dalbec's not like terrible depth piece to have in AAA, right? Not bad at all. You'd love to have a depth piece like that. Guy can play first, third, and short in a pinch. Like, you can't complain about that. But we've kind of seen it. It's like unless Dalbec can step up and do it consistently, like we've seen him just be the only thing that's been consistent is that he's been inconsistent. It's like the first base version of Jackie Bradley Jr. kind of at the plate, where he'll be hot for a couple months and then the rest of the year he's just not hot. He's freezing cold. I feel like that's kind of what it's been, and it sucks because everyone had high hopes for him.
I'll tell you that August of 2021, what Bobby Dalbec did for me that month, man, I owe him my life for that month because he was one of the few guys that really put the Red Sox on his back, him and Schwarber. But yeah, it's similar to Duran in a lot of ways, where if he's hoping to kind of figure it out at this point, like he needs regular-ish at bats, especially with his new approach that he talked about coming into spring training. But when you get to his age and his profile, it's just like I could picture him being a platoon guy in Milwaukee on a second division kind of team, and he's trying to figure it out. Call it poor man's Travis Shaw or whatever it may be, with some more defensive versatility. We forget Travis Shaw was playing second base for the Brewers at one point. I just think that's more his profile in Boston with the Red Sox in their current state. It's just not a great fit unless some injuries pop up.
If I may ask this, you're a stats guy. Derek is a stats guy. You're talking this Bobby Dalbec. We're talking like this poor son of a bitch is playing, somewhere in South America where, chickens are on the field at the exact same time they're fielding ground balls. If you take 30 teams, multiply it by 40 players, that's 1,200 human souls. There's 8 billion people on the planet. He is one of 1,200. He's 2 seasons removed from 25 fucking bombs. He's got a beautiful swing. If he gets the at-bats, I think this kid has got 30 home run pop. I'm not ready to write him off. If he hits 200, who gives a shit? If he hits 20 to 30 bombs and 60 to 70 RBIs and can take some games for Rafi at third, I've seen him at short. He didn't look horrible. First base, he's not the worst first baseman to ever play. But I think we need to put some respect on Bobby D's name because he's still one of 1,200, man. I know I'm an optimist, but I can't do what he does, man.
I have the great comparison for Bobby Dalbec. He's like an athletic, but not as good Miguel Sano or Adam Duvall before Adam Duvall moves to the outfield. Like literally. Because Duvall used to be a corner infielder, hit for power, super streaky though, and he also played in Cincinnati, which definitely helped him. That's a home run friendly ballpark. But Duvall's streaky, we know that, but he at least has a proven track record now, and he can play very good center field defense. Bobby Dalbec.
Can I just add one more thing about Dalbec is that I don't think most of us, maybe you did know, Tyler, being closer to Boston than any of us there right now. A lot of us were very confused what Chaim Bloom's plan was. I think the first time we had an idea was during the fan fest. I almost said another word back in January. And now I have an understanding where he's going. He wants contact hitters. He wants guys who can put the bat on the ball. That's not something Bobby D could do on a regular basis. And he's building a team that could do that. He's building a team, not just OBP, just contact. And that's why Bobby D is going to fall short. I could see him, like you said, being in Milwaukee. It's somewhere a second level. I hate to say that, but not the top echelon teams like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox. He's going to go to a second tier team. He might excel a little bit where the pressure is not as hot as it is in Boston.
That's it. Just a situation where, hey, you're going to face only lefties. You don't ever have to worry about a righty. Just focus on your strong platoon side, and hopefully the power runs into it. But I think that's the biggest thing here. It's Bobby Delbick doesn't fit the philosophy anymore. The reason Adam Duvall was so weird, this offseason was, and it was the right move. I'm a fan of the Duvall signing, but his hit profile is so different than everybody else's. And that's the reason when it comes to Justin Turner. Work walks, don't strike out, and put the ball in play. Masataka Yoshida, repeat. You know what I mean? You look at the guys that they dealt with last year that had those problems. JD Martinez, man, no disrespect to JD, the amount of times I watched this man chase a slider off the plate last year, I was ready to rip my hair out. It was constant, just throwing at bats away. When you have Bobby Delbick in the lineup regularly, Franchi Cordero in the lineup regularly, Jackie Bradley Jr., all these guys, it just was nonstop for certain stretches of the year. And you can't live like
half
that.
the lineup was up there with blindfolds.
But seriously, how many times did you look up at the pitch count on Nesson and it was like a guy's in the 6th inning and he's thrown 65 pitches against you? And it's like, dude, what happened to the old Red Sox that would sit there, Mike Napoli, and just bleed pitchers to death? You're going to have to throw me 5, 6, 7 pitches here. It's yeah, exactly.
I felt like I was in the MCU or in the multiverse, and this is the Red Sox where they don't go into deep into the pitch counts anymore.
It was funny though, because it was a thing that the Red Sox had preached. I remember when Shane Victorino came over from the Phillies, and there were clips when I spring training. He's like, aggressive base running wins games, especially in the postseason, and we need to be aggressive on the bases and work pitchers counts. And that whole 2013 team was just guys who that team was aggressive base running when they needed to be, and they just work counts like crazy.
Yeah, and that's why Kyle Schwarber, I think, meant so much to a lot of people, and it was such a change of pace. Where the Red Sox were in 2021 when he showed up was very similar to what we saw in 2022. The strikeouts just got out of control. They could not work pitchers down. Schwarber showed up. Dude, Bobby Delbick sat with him for 2 days. In the batting cage, it was oh, that's how you take pitches. And all of a sudden you saw everybody's brain click and they started making pitchers work. And I think that's the whole thing with the Red Sox this year. And they've kind of taken the same or a similar philosophy on the other side, throw strikes. No more beating around the bush. We're not, just attack pitcher or attack hitters on the pitching side. When you're at the plate, see pitches, foul pitches, put it in play. It's a complete 180 on both ends. And I respect them for making the change at this point. It's just, we'll see how it plays out because, I think anybody with this lineup can see potential holes, but also an upside that can at least match what you did last year.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned it with JD Martinez, right? I remember he says pulling your hair out. I watch games with my grandfather all the time, and every single time JD was up bat, he chases the same pitch outside off the plate, and almost in the left-handed batter's box slider. He can't hit it. Every single time. He swings the ball's coming inside and it ends up on the other's batter's box, and he can't hit it. Every single game it happened at least once.
Yeah, it's I love JD, and he is a hitting guru, one of the best free agent signings in Red Sox history. But the last 2 years, you saw the decline, especially it was a great first month or two, especially 2022, where the BABIP so through the friggin' roof, anything was falling in for him. The minute it got to a normal level, we saw all the numbers come down, and cool, right? It was similar numbers to Justin Turner. Well, the difference is JD completely faded down the stretch. Justin Turner was one of the best hitters in all of baseball in the second half. So, and then you bring in the hitting philosophy side of it. It's Turner may not, be a huge thumper who posts a 120 OPS plus or whatever it may be, but he fits what you're trying to do at the plate. And even if he's not hitting, 300, 15 to 20 jacks or whatever, he's going to make pitchers work. They're going to wear these guys down one way or another.
Well, I think one thing that needs to be said too with this philosophy that they have, not having the infield shift now. And I know what Cora did in the outfield, which I thought was brilliant, but you don't have that anymore. So contact is going to be king, like it has been, like it used to be, honestly. And this lineup is a little unique in that there's not that thumper like you talked about, but we've got the green monster. So they can just pepper that, and you're getting guys on base, and that's really what we need. And if we do that, the contact will just kick in after that. And that's why the bottom of the lineup, that's going to be really interesting to see, because we need people to at least get there, get there, and then the top of the lineup will get them across home. Maybe it's not through home runs like traditionally it has been over the last couple of years. I think it's just more playing station.
Yeah, and
Taylor's
like I
back.
don't and I don't think that's crazy. I think you look at Yoshida, anybody who's watched any highlight of him, man, watching yesterday, Patrick Sandoval, for all those people that want to laugh at, he got a couple hits off of Team Italy, he hit a home run. Yeah, have those singles to left field off Patrick Sandoval. Look, Patrick Sandoval had a 2.91 ERA in 27 starts for the Angels last year. Very, very good young left-handed pitcher in this league. And he's just dishing out. Keep shooting the ball that way. Tristan Casas, hey, Garrett, that home run off Garrett Cole plays through my head every single day. Like, that's what you're going to feed off. Justin Turner, a guy who, he should get a couple more home runs after playing in Dodger Stadium all these years. Like, the monsters right there take advantage of it. And maybe Doogie clicks into that a little bit more, stops trying to hit home runs like Cora's told them. Take advantage of the wall, because there's so much potential. Verdugo, you were supposed to be a 300 hitter in the big leagues. Just do what you need to do. And it's similar to Andrew Benintendi in a lot of ways, right? Like, just lean into the player you're supposed to be. Stop trying to be somebody else. But yeah, I think this Red Sox offense, say what you will, some people are super worried about the power and whatever. I'm not that worried. I think they'll find the power. I think Duvall, who now has 4 homers this spring, yeah, he's going to hit 210, 220. Great. Play good defense in center field and hit a bunch of bombs for me, and I'll be the happiest guy. Casas, you stay healthy, you should get 25 out of him. Yoshida, I'm starting, and I was a little, at least in terms of the scouting reports and I had read when Yoshida initially got signed here, I was thinking not exactly, but a Nori Aoki kind of style hitter, maybe something closer to a Shogo Akiyama, who was going to hit for average and maybe could not pound the ball. Yoshida is not that guy. Yoshida lifts the ball, man. There is legit power in there. And I think he could hit, somewhere between 15 to 20 home runs. And you get him in the AL East playing at Camden, and obviously less games against some of these teams this year, but Yankee Stadium.
Yep.
Come on, like, he should just luck into a couple.
Playing in had 20 home run seasons at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could hit 20 in Yankee Stadium just there.
Well, that's why you see
in 81 games with pesky pole,
and that's it. Like, that homer he hit yesterday is only out at Fenway Park, and that's the stuff you kind of lean on there and you get excited about, because say what you want, and a lot of it is going to fall on Heim here, depending on how this signing goes. It could cost him his job one way or the other. Realistically, that's just what it is. If he's right about Yoshida, and Yoshida is this 315 to 20 home run guy with a 380 OBP, say what you want. And I was upset about Xander leaving. That's who Xander Bogaerts was last year. Xander Bogaerts hit 300, 15 jacks for you, and got on base at like a 370 clip. If Yoshida does that, it's like, whoa, okay. So you replace Sanders' bat. You found a way to do that for reasonably cheaper. Say what you want about the guy. That's a massive boost, not only to this team for 2022, but moving forward for the next couple of years. And you can laugh in the face of all those execs that had no problem clowning the Red Sox for it.
Right. And I don't know if you guys caught this last night, but it didn't even dawn me until I actually saw it on Twitter, and I forget who had put it out there. But Yoshida's defense, he prevented the run of the 7th inning by tossing it in there. Like, it was a very good defensive play. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, wait a minute. And I thought about it. Yeah, like, defensively, that was a smart move. And he was able to prevent the run coming across, and Japan ended up winning. So I wasn't as familiar with his defense. I was more just looking at his offensive numbers and what it could be. But defensively, it's a good guy. Like, I have a very good feeling about this signing. And I feel like that, at the end of the year, even by the All-Star break, those executives are probably going to be eating some crow with what they were throwing out there. And I think it's just the jealousy factor. They're all jealous that we got him.
And sorry, Derek, to cut you off
there,
but like, I look at the two teams, I'm like, who are the two teams closest to him? It's the Toronto Blue Jays and the Los Angeles Dodgers. If you want to know what front offices are trying to leap through and find those guys, it's them. And if those are the teams chasing after Yoshida, that should tell you enough. That's all I got to say on that side of it. And Yeah, I think a lot of people thought Yoshida was going to be like Hanley Ramirez out there or even Schwarber, and you're going to close your eyes and pray for it. Defense is viewed differently in the NPB than it is here, where if you're just like, oh, there's a lot of plus defenders over there. They take the fundamentals of baseball very, very seriously. We know here it's a different conversation. Like you're going to try Franchi Cordero at first base to see what happens. But yeah, good enough arm, can make all the routine plays. What more do you want? Like that's a guy who you put in left field, especially if he hits.
Yeah. And if Manny Ramirez can play left field while cutting off throws from the center fielder, I think any like guy who's actually an outfielder can play in left field at Fenway, I think. Because let's be honest, Hanley wasn't an outfielder, and Kyle Schwarber is an outfielder, but he really was a catcher originally, so we'll cut him some slack there too. But I think this team's gonna be like the 2014-15 Royals when it comes to offense, just double city, especially with the monster, doubles off the monster, doubles in the gaps. Fenway is, very good for double, especially that right center gap down the right field line, go left center too, and go off the monster. There's a lot of possibilities for doubles and all that. And I feel like this is a team, you're not going to have a guy, maybe Raffy hits 35 homers, but you're not going to have, 2, 3, 4 guys going 30 plus home runs. Maybe unless they bring the juice baseballs back, because Gleyber Torres hit like almost 40 in 2019. Although like 20 of them were at
Yankee Stadium.
No, 20 of them were at like Camden, no. And the other 15 were at Yankee Stadium. But still, like, but no, they're not going to be. But they could. I do see them being a very doubles heavy team. And I think they'll have a very good situational hitting team with guys like Yoshida. I think Casas can be a good situational hitter. I think Devers can be. I think Justin Turner can be. I think Alex Verdugo really can be as well. So even Kike and Christian Arroyo, guys like that, Reese McGuire even showed it a little bit last year. Like I think they will have a lineup that, you need someone to put the ball in play. Maybe Adam Duvall's not that guy, but I think pretty much everyone else in that lineup could be a guy like that who you need him to poke the ball the other way. He can do it.
Yeah, and like that's where it all goes back, kind of circle around to the philosophy thing, right? Like no more a guy gets on base and 2 guys strike out. If you put the ball in play, good things will happen. Just continue to do it, and let's see it play out. I don't think, some people want to completely write this lineup off just because it doesn't have, the star-studded names, the 35 home run guys. It's like, no, you don't have that, but you have a lot of guys who are going to hit for average that they're going to get on base. They're going to clog up the bases and get out there. Just keep making contact. If everyone kind of plays somewhat just to what they've been in their career or can take the next step. Yeah. Like last year's team had so many deficiencies. They punted on center field to some degree with Kike out there, just not hitting, dealing with significant injuries as we saw, but he did not hit. You punted in right field with Jackie Bradley Jr., who, come on, man, he's signing a minor league deal to continue playing baseball at this point. Bobby Delbick and Travis Shaw at first. Travis Shaw was retired. Yeah. Like, I hate to be that guy. He was done. Like, Travis Shaw did not expect the Major League Baseball team to be calling him in March of last year. And when the Red Sox called, he was like, yeah, sure. And then he plays 10 games and they tell him to go home. You're good. Like, those are 3 different positions that you got nothing from.
Yeah, Franchi Cordero, too. I named my fantasy team after him, and that was a nightmare because I had to change it midseason because he was so frustrating.
Let me tell you, May and June, though, those were fun times for the Franchi Cordero fan.
Oh, it was. I read that the Walk-Up Grand Slam and that 470-something foot home run he hit in Philly. 2 greatest moments of the greatest moments of the last 2 seasons. Just Franchi hitting bombs. It was amazing.
They gave your fantasy team name some fortitude there. Good fantasy team name, and then it just. Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie though. That game he hit that home run in Philly. I had to put him in my fantasy lineup because everyone was like injured on my team. So I'm like, you know what? Sure, I'll just throw Franchi in there. He was on my team just as like a mascot, and he hit a home run. And I'm like, okay, you're never playing again because you're never doing that again. Let's move on to guys DFA candidates, right? Because there are a lot of injuries on this team right now. Not a lot of long term. Trevor Story really long term, but Connor Wong, and he might be back for opening day. But I think that'll really decide what happens with Jorge Alfaro. Adalberto Mondesi, Brian Bayo, James Paxton, Garrett Whitlock, Joely Rodriguez. A lot of guys who injured could potentially miss the start of the season. There's a chance someone like a Ryan Altapia, like we already talked about, he makes the opening day roster. He needs to be added to the 40-man. Someone's got to go, right? And I know you said Caleb Hort as one option.
Yes.
Yeah, which I think we're all kind of fine with. However, if a second guy has to go, right? Let's say Wong isn't ready for opening day and they got to bring Alfaro onto the roster to be the backup catcher for the first week or so, and someone's got to get DFA'd. Is it going to be someone like maybe Yu-Chang can't get into the U.S. because he's still having visa problems, and that might make it a little easier. But let's say Yu-Chang gets in, and let's say Yu-Chang even makes the opening day roster in this hypothetical world. Does Dahlbeck maybe get DFA'd? But maybe someone claims him though, so you have that risk. I mean, you only have so many arms right now on the 40-man for the bullpen. So, like, who would be the optimal second DFA candidate right now?
I think it's Bobby Dahlbeck, and that's why we're seeing him featured so much at shortstop. And I don't think they want it straight. I'm so sorry. I can see the pain. I can see it. But when it comes to Bobby Dahlbeck, I think they look at it and they're just hoping. And they tried to move him during the offseason. Like, they got one little bite, and it was the Rays. And I can tell you, the Rays believe in Bobby Dahlbeck, the pitcher, from his draft profile and how they viewed him back then, as more than, you know, what he is today as a hitter. But I think they're trying to showcase him and say, hey, he can play short, at least competently. He plays third, he plays first. There's still a little upside there. Maybe you bite on it, but I don't think they're going to want to DFA any more arms off the 40-man with where they are. Like, you get, especially with some of the injuries they have, they're already dipping into it with Zach Kelly and Wyatt Mills and some of these names. Like, there's really they're not going any farther. And we know they're not going to lean on Walter or Mata or Murphy early in the season to help with the big league club, at least from the way Cora's phrased it. It's just, you look for the odd man out, and they gave Yu-Chang a major league deal when they did sign him. Now, will I tell you when Mondesi's ready, they're probably going to tell him to kick rocks? Yeah. But I think they also say, hey, Mondesi, it could be a couple weeks into April. We still haven't really got anything of a legit timetable on him. We'll figure it out when we get there. Yeah. You know, 3 weeks into the season, who knows who's hurt, who needs to go on the IL at that point. Similar to how they handled the rotation where, yeah, there's too many people, but look, it's March 21st and we have 3 of the starters starting the season on the IL. And it's like, all right, well, that's why you don't trade from that depth before the season started.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And you bring up starters, obviously, and this is going to lead us perfectly into our stats and chats, our closing segment here, because we're going to go with the trivia stats and chats this time. I've kind of picked this out. We talk about stars. Corey Kluber was named the opening day starter for 2023, including Corey Kluber. Since from 2001 onwards, there have been 12 different pitchers who have started on opening day for the Red Sox. This is open to everyone. Can you name all 12? I've already given you Corey Kluber, so there's only 11 left. Can you name all 11?
I'll go first.
Pedro.
Oh, come on, man.
Damn it.
Pedro's one. That's an easy one.
Schilling.
Schilling is another one.
Josh Beckett.
Josh Beckett is another one.
Cy Young.
No. Not Cy Young.
John Lester.
I thought you were going to say
John
Mike
Lester.
Napoli.
So you have Pedro, Schilling, Beckett, and Lester.
Chris Sale.
Chris Sale is another one.
Rick Porcello.
Rick Lowe.
Rick Porcello is another one. Derek Lowe is not one.
Tim Wakefield.
Tim Wakefield is also not one.
Damn it. Disrespectful.
Nate Eovaldi.
Nathan Eovaldi is also one.
Yep.
What about Dice Cake?
Dice K is another one.
Hey, that's one for Taylor. Fuck yeah.
Ooh.
So
What number are we at?
I'll run you through the list. Right now, you've got
We're at 8.
Yeah, you got Pedro, Schilling, Dice K, Beckett, Lester, Porcello, Sale, and Eovaldi, and I've also given you Corey Kluber. So you have 3 left. Buckles is another one.
Yeah, good pick.
Yes.
Oh, Price.
David Price is another one.
How did we miss? So we're missing one more?
There's one more. I will tell you the year.
One more.
The year is
Before 2010 or after 2010?
2005.
05.
You said Wakefield.
Ooh.
You said Schilling.
Blackie?
Nope.
No.
That Clement?
Nope. This one is so far out of left field. I was shocked.
Mike Napoli.
No. A pitcher. An actual pitcher.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
2005.
I don't feel like we lost a lot of guys off.
I'm gonna go on a limb, and I may be a few years ahead. Was it Felix Dubron?
Nope, he never started on opening day. I love the name though. I love bringing up the name. That's
great throwback. Great name. So 05, right? I'm thinking Derek Lowe was still on the team.
It's not
it wasn't
him.
him.
Jeff Reardon.
And now drawing a blank on other pitchers. Was
David Wells?
Man.
It was David Wells.
Oh,
let's
Yeah,
go,
he was
Tyler.
42.
Fuck yeah, man.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was the one
Beginning
where
in the ringer.
I was like, David
That
Wells
was-
started an opening day because I remember him as a Yankee because he played with the Yankees before he played for the Red Sox, and he also played with the
Right.
Yankees after he played for the Red Sox. So I was just like,
Right.
I'm like, he played for the Red Sox because I was born in 2003, so I was 2 years old when that. Actually, what hadn't even turned 2
Oh
actually.
wow.
So I remember
Wow.
looking at that. I'm like, David Wells even I'm like, David Wells pitched for the Red Sox. I was like, what? I'm like, I don't remember. I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, obviously, I don't remember. I was 2, but
See, my
I-
my shot in the dark was going to be Bartolo. I don't even know if he was on the 05, but that was my shot in the dark. Like, okay, Bartolo, but
That's
Man.
funny, Derek. For the first time, I am not the youngest dude on a Red Sox podcast, so that actually makes me very happy. I'll be like, I always tell people, they make fun of me when I'm talking with Jared. I don't remember anything like it's 07 and after. I've gone back and done my research, so I have a decent feel on some of the rosters, but I didn't experience baseball until 2007. That was my first year, my first championship, and it's my favorite one out of the 4, no matter what anybody
Yeah.
says.
yeah, no, it's
Dude,
Taylor, I'm just going to say this. Oh, bless your heart.
Oh, bless your heart.
the
bless your
rotation
Oh, bless
though.
your heart.
The rotation in
God bless
2005 was wild because the rotation was Wakefield, Bronson Arroyo, Matt Clement, and David Wells all made 30 or more starts. Baseball Reference has the number 5 starter
Wow.
as Wade Miller because Kurt Schilling, although he appeared in 32 games, only made 11 starts that year.
Wow.
God.
Yeah.
Speaking
So
of pitchers, say Tyler, I love prospects. I could spend hours talking about prospects, and I've been looking forward to this first full year of Brian Bayo. Where do you see? What's your vision tell you about Brian Bayo this year? Where do you foresee his career or his year ending?
And this is coming from a Garrett Whitlock stand, someone who believes he should be in the rotation. I think Brian Bayo will be clearly the best pitcher on the Red Sox starting rotation and the entire pitching staff by the end of the year. I buy into it. I think what people, and there's a lot, the radio guys, the guys who don't dig as deep into metrics, like if you look at his BABIP luck last year, it was some of the most
so bad.
ridiculous stuff I had ever seen in my entire life. Like I have never seen someone have such bad luck with ground balls. And you saw it get cleaned up in September. And obviously he was getting a little bit more comfortable. You could see he was learning just to pitch to his strengths instead of trying to just get by guys or whatever it was. And he had 50 innings at AAA when the Red Sox had to call him up. And it wasn't because they wanted to. They legit got their hand forced. But it sucks that he's going to miss probably 2 turns through the rotation. But I thought what we saw in September was already, mid-rotation stuff. I think there's another gear for him. And after working with Pedro and really trying to master pitching inside the guys, I hear something like that. Like that's what I'm looking for. And he has the makeup to kind of, I think, excel in a place like Boston. He's not scared of the big moments. Cora's already saying it. Like the guy just acts like he belongs. Kind of similar to Tristan Casas in some ways, but to see Bayo carve
You
up.
got 3 kids with their confidence is just glows. Casas, Devers, Bayo, and we haven't seen this in probably about 10 years with prospects. Maybe not 10 years, but it feels like at least 10 years with prospects. They're just beaming with confidence, natural confidence.
In like no disrespect to Jarren Duran, but I think he's someone we saw the opposite. When he got up here, he lost whoever he was. And I think anyone who follows him on social media, who saw who he was in AAA, like that dude was a vocal guy. Like he was kind of someone who saw himself as like, like not in a bad way, but he just out there. He was Jarren Duran
guy. Kind of like Alex Verdugo.
And that's why they're best buddies. Like you see Duran around Verdugo and around Arroyo, like crazy. And it's like, oh, I see how those personalities mesh. Last year, dude, and part of it was his mistakes. I think the other part of it was a clubhouse that the front office partially led to it souring. I think some of it was guys like JD being upset they weren't going to get an extension after begging for one. Evaldi was someone similar. And Evaldi, he'd be here, if they had signed or re-signed Bogarts. I truthfully believe that. They rescinded that 3-year offer that was on the table to him. And he took a lesser deal with the Rangers. But yeah, I think it just wasn't a clubhouse that was super welcoming to the younger guys. And we've seen that a little bit with the Tristan Casas stuff that's come out. I don't care. Like I respect Time Bloom and Alex Cora. They're not going to shit on those guys going out the door. And I don't think it's shitting on them, but I think when vibes aren't great and when a phase of guys realizes, it's beyond us now. And I read a chapter from Homegrown, Alex Spear's book, where they talk about a very similar thing happening in 2014 when Xander and JBJ were coming up and Mookie, and those veterans looked at those guys and were like, what is up with these guys? Like, how are you not already ready to compete and win a World Series? It's like, that's just not how it works. Like, guys got to come up here, adjust to big league life, adjust to just being a major league ball player. And, it took 3 or 4 years, but they all went on to be World Series champions, or, Xander a second time, but to really push themselves as MLB regulars and stars. I think last year's group wanted to win. They wanted it to be 2021. They're like, hey, like, we can be like 2021 or 2018, where as time went along, I think by the end of the year, the front office was like, yeah, it's at least where we're trending right now. If we don't sign Bogarts, we're probably looking at a bridge here, and we're going to let the minor league guys take a little time to develop, let the farm system continue to grow, and just see what happens, see what develops out of that. That's the road you ultimately went down.
I think Cora's as much on the hook as Chaim Bloom is. You don't let your team disintegrate like that in the locker room and still hold that. You have to have some ownership. And there didn't seem like there was ownership from leadership. And when I say leadership, not the players, the coaches. And you could see it on Cora's face the entire year. He just looked like he didn't want to be there anywhere near a ballpark. And I'm sure he did a great job about keeping the issues that were in that locker room. And I think I'll say one good thing about Cora. And these guys know I'm not a big Cora fan just because the ethics of baseball. But he did a great job about keeping the issues that were in that and not letting them leak out as much, especially in Boston, where the media is. Bill Belichick's the only one that can get away with it, but the media is relentless.
Yeah, and as someone,
no offense.
No, true offense, fully, I could not agree with you more. I remember David Price being diagnosed with mental disorders. That was routes people were going, saying he could not handle the Boston market, which grow up, please grow up. Yeah. It's David Price. Trust me, he can handle pitching in Boston, as we saw. Yeah, but
I was one of those, and I was one of those. Yeah, oh my God. Yep. It's part now of I look back and I'm like, God, that was stupid.
Listen, I think everybody has takes that go one direction or whatever, but with Cora, yeah, I think sometimes he's such a player's manager, and especially this group that was here, I think he leaned on them, and he's like, it's a sticky situation. You could see it was uncomfortable. I think with the Xander Bogart stuff, like a guy who had been a leader, who obviously, Rafael Devers talked about it. They started going out after games just so Bogarts could decompress and kind of get through it. And they put him through shit he shouldn't have had to go through, but it happened, right? And as a leader, no matter what happens, that's going to have an effect if you're not the same guy who's always talking to the media. So it felt like Cora got a little caught in between there last year. And I will say I was happy when he stepped up, when Nate Eovaldi and the team was in friggin' shambles over Kevin Plawecki leaving the team and could not put themselves together legit. I thought Rich Hill was going to, collapse on the floor just trying to comprehend it.
That was so bad.
But when Cora had to be like, yeah, I talked to Eovaldi about that. You could see for the first time was like, all right, guys, we get it. There's plenty of things to be upset with the front office. Trust me, going over the luxury tax last year, you'll hear nobody bitch about that more than me. But just for what it was, yeah, that group it had soured, and it wasn't all of them. I think if the Red Sox had it their way, they thought Bogarts was going to be back. They thought Eovaldi was going to be back, but it was clear there were also certain parts they were ready to move on from and kind of reinvigorate the clubhouse with some new voices, the Justin Turners of the world that can, just bring a different approach to the game, as Kike Hernandez has described a few times this spring.
But we're moments away from first pitch in the WBC. Who you got?
Team USA, but I hope Yoshida goes 4 for 4. It's a couple bombs and does his thing. But I'd love to see Team USA pull this one out, win 2 in a row. You tie Team Japan for 2-2 in WBC history, and then I hope that paves the way even more. I think 2017 brought the players back in. I think this one will bring a lot of people back in, and even if USA wins, then it'll be the fans who I fought on air today for 20 minutes about them telling me no one cares about the WBC.
People care.
Trust me, people care when
care.
it's Super Bowl
care.
ratings in Japan.
Yes.
People fucking
When
care.
Luis
might
Suarez
go
is
down
doing
as-
bat flips after hitting home runs, and he's like the most chill guy ever. He never hits home runs. First of all, I love him, but he never hits home runs. When he does hit home runs, just kind of jogs on whatever. He's bat flipping and stopping on third base and for Venezuela. It means something.
I think Alex Cora put it perfectly. In a game now, which, Major League Baseball, it's money, it's unwritten rules, it's so many things. And I love baseball to death. WBC is the most pure baseball you'll ever see at the professional level, because these guys, dude, if whatever team wins, each player gets like 50 grand. Now, 50 grand is not nothing, but to a lot of these Major League-esque players who have all these millions, 50 grand, like whatever. Like that's not what they're playing for here. They're playing for their country and what that means, playing with their friends. And you see it. It's like watching Little League, where your homie goes deep and you're like all running out and you're like, holy shit. Like to see Mike Trout and Nolan Arenado and all these guys doing that, Otani in Japan, and like that is so friggin' cool. And it brings just the game to a level where it's like you just relate to it on a different level. You can be like, man, they're playing the game like I would if I got to be out there, or they're playing it like I play Road to the Show. You know what I mean?
I think fans fell
Honestly,
in love with the Rosarena. I mean, what a I never thought he was that charismatic.
Oh,
guy makes a home run, saving catch, then he goes signs baseballs.
He's so cool. I got the privilege of sitting in left field at the Trop with Red Sox Rays game. Rosarena, him and Verdugo, they're both playing left field that game. The whole game, interaction with the fans. There was funny. A fan threw Rosarena throwing a ball, and a Red Sox fan caught it and threw it back. And a Rosarena was like, "I'm giving it to a Rays fan." And then the guy gets thrown out for throwing the ball back, and the Rays fans start chanting, "He's gone!" And a Rosarena is just like, "Get out!" He's just in the middle of an inning, like a live inning.
And like it's that stuff. Like, dude, when he hit the friggin' pose, like that is going to be a great meme on baseball Twitter for the next year or so or whatever. But like that kind of stuff you don't usually get with baseball. You're getting it every friggin' night right now. Turn the TV on at 7 and you're watching as intense baseball as you're going to find. Like, if you love baseball, how are you not watching this?
Right. It really brings the romance into baseball. I mean, that's really what it is. It's there's a lot of, and not necessarily for the US, but these other teams only have a couple of major league players, and the rest are these minor league scrappers or guys who are playing in a country just trying to fight their way for some recognition. And they're up on the stage with these guys, and it's that camaraderie with a team that you don't necessarily see with a lot of major league teams. We talked about the Red Sox clubhouse last year, right? There was no resemblance of them coming together like that. You look at other teams like that, teams are just not for it. And then the ones that do come together in this, they're a lot of fun to watch, which I think the Red Sox could be this year. I think that clubhouse is going to be a lot of fun, but you're seeing that with these teams that are represented by country. And I don't know how anybody could not appreciate this. Like, even if, people are, the injuries and that, it's all spring training stuff. Like, that happens. Enjoy what is in front of you. Like, this is something that the world has really never seen before, because yes, there's been other World Baseball Classics, but it has not been this competitive. It has not been this hyped up, because you have not seen games like this. And I don't understand why people would not appreciate it. It's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, like even like the Edwin Diaz stuff. First off, if you're complaining about that, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like jumping up and down. We saw a video from 2 years ago at Met spring training of them fake pretending celebrating a World Series. Like, if something like that's going to happen, that's going to happen. And then I see the same thing. It's like, oh, well, look at Jose Altuve. Did you see what happened to Justin Turner 2 weeks ago? The dude took a baseball directly to the face, and he's a dog for being back on the field already. But like, things happen. You're playing baseball.
Let me just change sports. Every time I see Swayman and Omar go jumping in the air, my heart gets swallowed. I'm like, oh God, please don't break things.
Let's get this thing wrapped up.
If I may, Tyler, I'm gonna put you on the fucking spot, bro.
Do it, baby.
Who has a better mustache, Jared Carrabis or Robert fucking Taylor?
I'm sorry, Jared. Robert, I'm gonna have to give it to you, man. I'm giving it to you. That thing is clean. Now, as someone who does not, I'm not strong in the mustache or facial hair game. I'm new to it. This beard is still a work in progress. You look like a seasoned vet. You look like someone who's been through it a few times. And Jared will get there one day.
He's a young whippersnapper compared to me, but his beard obviously is well groomed, not bad. But I was noticing the last couple of videos I've seen him, and he's lacking in the mustache section. So I want you to direct him to this podcast when we put it on YouTube, and I want him to learn from this seasoned veteran that this Monopoly man is fucking legit, bro.
Yeah, he has to come off, and he has to come on. We have to do a stash off.
Yeah, please.
Absolutely.
I will let Jared know.
100%. You tell him to give me a shout, and I will fucking give him some pointers. Brother, we got the WBC coming up. Though I don't give a thunderous fuck about it, I'm going to watch it because I'm super excited to see Shohei. I'm super excited to see Monstah, Trout, all those guys. Is there anything that you want to plug before we wrap this son of a bitch up, before we head off and start drinking beer and watching the WBC?
Yeah, I think it'd be the same stuff from the beginning. If you're looking for another Red Sox podcast to get into, the Kravitz Pod is pretty good. We do 2 hours, and it's a lot of us just similar to here. Guys just talking through what's going on, the latest stories in Red Sox camp. If you want to check out my writing, it's on the Sports Hub website. If you look under the Red Sox folder, a lot of that is me. So yeah, that's really it. And fingers crossed we have a fun Red Sox season. It may not be the highest ceiling team, but I think it's going to be a lot more likable team than what we had in 2022. And that's no disrespect to them, but when things sour the way they did, that's reality.
I'm going to be in Boston in late October, early November for the parade. I'm going to pick you up and take you to the parade with me. But we will.
He's going to be on the duck boat, so maybe
I'm going to be on the motherfucking duck boats, man. And this mustache by itself is going to have its own fucking duck boat. But guys, thank y'all so much again for hanging with us, Mr. Brown, Mr. Jeremy, Stats. It's always an honor to hang with you guys. Tyler, fucking A, man. This was the absolute honor, a highlight for me. Thank you for taking the time. Please keep in contact with Stats because I want him to blossom in his career and do great things and get the fuck out of Florida. So for everybody that is listening and going to watch this, I am Michael Anthony Napoli for Derek Stats McGuire, Jeff Reardon Brown, Jeremy the underweight. I am a captive of ISIS underdog, Tyler Milliken. Thank y'all for paying attention. Thank y'all for listening to my dumb ass. I am the Village Idiot, and we will talk to you later. And thank y'all for watching Off the Monster.